Hey everybody, so today we're going to be talking about the power of surrender, what it means and why it's important to you, how resisting surrender causes inner turmoil, and we're going to give you some helpful methods for surrendering. Finally, if you use these methods, you'll understand that they will help you feel calm and at peace when unexpected situations happen.
So we want to start off today's episode with a quote, and it's from somebody called Ram Dass. If you've never heard of him, make sure to look him up. He's like awesome resource,
He's so
awesome
good.
person.
Yeah.
But he said, the resistance to the unpleasant situation is the root of suffering.
Gosh, that is so good.
Yeah, it's like every time when we kind of started reading some of his books and stuff, and I had never been aware of the fact that every time I thought or think that I'm suffering in life, it really comes down to that I've been having resistance to the way things are. That's really what it is. It's not that things were actually that bad, but I wanted them to be different.
Yeah, but that's a good point. Even if they were that bad, it doesn't matter, right? Because the suffering is...
It's just mental.
It's in your head. I was just going to say, it's in your head.
So today we want to talk about how surrendering allows you to slip out of that egoic mind that we all get stuck in. And it just helps you really narrow your focus and have clarity and focus on the things you can control in your life.
That's so good, honestly. At the end of the day, that's all we can do, right?
And the main ways that we go about doing that is, first, it's by learning to have no bias or judgment of situations and things that are happening in life. Because a lot of times, that's what creates our resistance. And when you learn to do that, then you're able to create this clarity, right? And this sense of calmness. And for me, when I was talking about my struggles with that, that's what usually happens is instead of being calm, you get worked up and it starts letting you have like anxiety or other things. So this allows you to learn to stay calm, have clarity of the situation. And then in the end, between having the no bias and judgment and learning to have that calmness and clarity, you're just able to let the situation be whatever it's going to be, right?
Gosh, I really love that. It's just so profound as a sentence. Like if you actually think about what that's saying, you let the situation be what it's going to be.
Yeah, and when I first started hearing this phrase,
were you just as lost as I was? What do you mean?
And it makes you think like, oh, it's kind of saying like, don't try to accomplish anything or don't try to like change anything in your life. And we'll talk about that today. That's not what it means. It's just, but it's actually it's just a really powerful thing, learning to accept how things are. And then you can move forward in a different way that allows you to accomplish so much more in your life with that clarity and that calmness. So when we go through these things today and go through these steps and, having the non-judgment and the clarity and letting things be what it's going to be, in the end, you'll find that you'll live your life in such a non-reactive state. Compulsive and reactive behaviors is what causes most pain and suffering in our lives. And it'll just lead to an overall sense of inner peace in your thoughts and your life. And, one of the biggest things that, as you start going through this and you start having these realizations for yourself of where you're slipping into these things, it allows you to switch from feeling like a victim to life to having more of a problem-solving mentality.
That is so good. Yeah, totally. I mean, that's the root of the suffering. We think, oh, poor me, like I hate this, like why is this happening to me? And you get into this spiraling negative thinking, right? That that's when you become the victim instead of being like, hey, how can I solve this? What can I do now?
That's the thing, yeah.
In the present moment.
When you're so focused on the way things aren't and the way you wish they were, think you're so wrapped up in that you're not putting any energy toward actually making that reality you want come to pass. You just get really wrapped up in your mind. It causes a lot of suffering. So let's talk about what surrendering actually means and why it's important.
We don't often talk too much about this topic in Create New Patterns, but what it really means to surrender is you're putting your ego in line. And that's the topic that I'm talking about that we usually don't talk about, right? Because ego is a big subject, but that's what you're saying when you're like, you know what? I am going to surrender to the situation. I'm going to say yes to whatever outcome it's going to be. And I'm going to be okay with it. And you're saying, hey, ego, I know that you're chatting me up in my ear and you're saying, no, but this is not what we had planned in our heads. It needs to go this way. And you're saying, you know what? Just shut up, ego. I'm done. You listen to me. I don't listen to you.
Yeah,
you know?
no, it's a great way you said it, because this whole yes to any outcomes.
Yeah.
Man, like on the last 4 months, we were in Indonesia and Bali, and now we're in Malaysia. And that has been one of the biggest learnings, is as we went through job changes, career changes, things sometimes being great, sometimes being unstable, or just unpredictable or unknown. And that's been a huge lesson for me, is like being okay with not knowing the outcome of situations. I mean, the moment I start obsessing or focusing on that things aren't going the way I wanted them to, or the way I had envisioned them, man, that's exactly when I start suffering, honestly. Like I literally start getting anxiety and worried and blah, blah, blah. And then when I just let go and just say, hey, this is just how things are right now. Things are going to work out. And again, it's not that you just give up, but you just have this sense of calm and inner peace, and you're just able to move forward. And it's been amazing.
Well, and you said the word unpredictability. That's exactly what life is. And it's just like, there is this quote actually that I read. Her name is Pema Chödrön, and she's an American Tibetan Buddhist. And she said, if you're looking for security, you're in the wrong planet, sister. I shouldn't say sister, but that is so good.
Yeah.
I love that quote, because it's just like, damn, we ain't getting out of life, the unpredictability. So you might as well learn how to not suffer through it, because that is the only way we're going to have inner peace, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the key to saying yes to any outcome is embracing that you're not going to know how things are going to happen. Things, like you said, they're not going to work according to your plan. That's just not how life works. And so it takes a sense of courage. When in reality, like, you have to be courageous to let go, to accept the unknown, and
honestly,
just embrace it.
I really love that you said that, because when you think of courage, and we're saying yes to being courageous in the sense of, it's not easy to say, gosh, like, to accept what people are going to say, to like, what if this doesn't happen and people say this? It's hard to be like, man, yeah, it's okay. What if I don't get that job? And it takes courage to not care what people say, or to not care what your mom's going to say, or your husband's going to say, or your friends. And that's why we're saying yes, that it means yes to courage.
Well, and think, even when you were saying that, it's what people are gonna say. Your mom's gonna say, it's gonna say. And the key to this, really, it comes down to, you're rooting yourself in the now.
Man, I love that.
You're not dwelling on the past, or like you said, who's gonna say this? What are they going to say?
The what ifs.
Going to in the future. It's pointless to let those things dictate, how you react to the present situation.
Yeah. And, not surrendering is you want control. When you want to kick and scream through this whole process that's happening, through this whole situation, it really boils down to you wanting to control the situation. It does.
Yeah, that's been something I've struggled with. And like I said, as I've realized I struggled with this over the last, it's been my whole life, but I've become aware of it more in the last, 6 months or so. And that's what I realized is, man, every time I find myself doing that, it's because I'm afraid. I'm honestly afraid of, what if things don't work out, or what if I don't get this work, or blah, 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 or we have this money, or whatever it is. And it's, again, it comes back to the courage, saying the fear part is letting go of that fear, surrendering and just releasing it. It really does take courage. And, the amazing thing is, in the end, when you do that, first of all, you have that sense of peace and everything that we talked about, but you just realize that it's not, that fear is not what you imagined. Like, it's never as big of a deal as you made it up in your head.
Yeah.
You know?
But just to play devil's advocate here, it doesn't, it can't matter if it was the biggest, like catastrophe. And that's what we're talking about here, because a lot of people, I hear this a lot on, Instagram and stuff. And it's just like, oh, like we often chase all these little things to do so we can try to control life. And this isn't about controlling at all. This is just about acceptance and surrender, which that means, like we said earlier, despite what happens, whether it is good, whether it's a little bit of what you imagine, or whether it's a catastrophe, it just comes down to acceptance.
I think another quote I really like from Ram Dass in one of his
so
talks
good.
we listened to is that he says he's found over life, especially as he's gotten older, that life is just as interesting when things don't go according to your plans as when they do. And so you learn to surrender to that, to trust it, and just embrace it, because when you just accept the way things are, you can still enjoy such an amazing life, honestly. No matter, just letting go of how you thought life was going to be or how you made it up in your head, just embrace it. And it's awesome being in the now and accepting that vulnerability. I mean, that's how you break down or get around that ego. Honestly, the ego, it hates every time we're in the present, we're making progress in overcoming that ego.
Yeah, because your ego is like, hey, what's going on? We have plans.
Yeah.
And we need to execute them according to the plan.
Or we're not going to be happy.
Or
that's
that is so good. That's it, Or if life is trying to throw this at you, we're going to kick and scream all the way to the top, and sometimes you don't even get to the top and it still sucks. And like,
and you're not happy, even if you do in that egoic way, what I mean?
Because the kicking and screaming is the suffering. It's that pushing back. We apologize if you guys hear a bunch of noise. It's
like never ending construction.
I know, right? So just really quick, we are in Malaysia, in this little city, not little actually, in this beautiful city called Malacca. So if you've never been here, it's super cute and quaint. I love it.
Yeah, and if you do hear, you might hear sounding like there's a bunch of soccer referees blowing whistles. For some reason, every official in any capacity, parking lot people, everything, they all have
whistles.
It's like soccer referee whistles, and they blow them constantly. So
no, and I shit you not, you're like 2 feet away from them, and if they're trying to get your attention, they will blow that whistle.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if they could just say, "Hey,
hey, excuse me." They're like,
"It's red card."
Oh man. Anyway,
so yeah, why this is important, this surrendering and getting that ego in line, is simply because that's the key to a peaceful life. Getting that calmness and that distance. And you just learn to stop fighting it, which is whatever you've built up in your mind, those goals, those plans, the things not working how you thought they would. You let that stuff go, and you just gain this ability to like bear the storm,
Yeah. I remember the other day we were going over the script, and you mentioned, when I said like easier to bear the storm, you mentioned something about this duck meditation.
Yeah. That was
Can you
really
tell
cool.
us about it?
Yeah, I don't remember who it came from, dang it. It might have been like Tara Brach.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to her, she's amazing as well. And anyway, she was talking about how when we talk about this surrendering to the presence, it's just like when you see a duck or any bird in the ocean, you'll see them like land on the waves, and they don't even think about and get overwhelmed with how big the ocean is, how small the area they're in is in relation to the ocean.
That's so good.
And they just go with the waves. So you'll see the waves like going up and down, and that bird just like flows along with it. And that's how we need to be with life, is as the waves come, you don't try to resist them and fight through them. You just flow with them.
Yeah.
You understand that it's going to have its ups and downs, and in the end, you're going to be okay.
I really can't imagine the smoothness of that duck on that ocean. You've seen it before. You're just like, I get the analogy. It makes sense, because it's so much easier to do that than try to struggle through the storm or any of that, right?
And you're just it's about accepting reality.
Yeah.
Understanding that those waves are there, and you're just then it allows you to move forward. Like I said, not pointlessly fighting against waves, but moving forward non-reactively. So you're able to have clarity and think and actually really accomplish the things that you can in your life.
And we want to mention it's not giving up, right? It's giving in. And that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Because giving up will take you to the same place as when you don't surrender, right? Because you'll still be hopeless if you give up.
It's an important distinction. Yeah. I actually found this little parable because that was an important point I wanted to make is it's not giving up. It's easy for people to misinterpret this as that. And this is a little Zen parable. And there was a man who's struggling to cross a river, and he's out there and he's fighting against the current. And if anyone's ever swam in a river, especially if you're not familiar with swimming in rivers, like it's really easy. Yeah. And it's such a good analogy because you get like caught up because you feel that force. You just instinctively, you try to fight against it.
Well, and you try to swim
against it
way faster and you exhaust yourself.
And so he keeps trying and he's fighting and he becomes more and more exhausted. And finally the Zen master just tells him to stop fighting and instead to just float with the current.
Gosh, that's so good.
Yeah. And it seems illogical, especially to the person swimming, is like, you feel like you're going to drown if you don't try to fight that current. And so it seems illogical, but the exhausted man, he follows that advice, and then he's able, like once he lets go and just goes with the flow, like he's able to just like effortlessly and smoothly glide over to the other side of the river. And the whole point of it is it just teaches that when we stop resisting and go with the flow, like the duck, or like in this story, not only do you have this peace and stuff, but you actually save your energy and you're able to achieve.
Ooh, that's a really good point.
You're able to achieve your goals more easily because when you have that energy and then you have that clarity of focus, I think you're able to just, all that energy you wasted trying to fight the river. And even if you barely reach the other side, you're going to be dead tired. You're just not able to do anything else.
That really is how it feels when you just resist and you're just fighting it. Like I've had it where I get exhausted. I want to go to sleep and I'm just like, fuck this. For reals. I'm just like, wanted to take a deep breath and just not even worry about it because you're that tired.
Well, in the end, it's just that I wanted to give this story because he doesn't give up. That's the important thing to realize.
Yeah.
He didn't give up crossing the river. He just stops fighting the current and just goes with the flow, and he still reaches his goal. So it's not about giving up on your goals. It's about giving in to the waves and understanding that you don't have to fight the waves. You just ride them up and down.
What I love about that story is that you said he still reached his goal. He just reached it in a different way.
Yeah.
Right?
An easier way, I think, in the end.
Yeah. And that's not always the result, but it's just, it doesn't always have to. Maybe he planned on walking by the river, but you know what? He fell in and now he went with the flow of the river and he's still at his destination, just not the way that him and his ego were planned.
Yeah. So on that point, why does resisting surrender cause so much inner turmoil? I mean, we kind of went through it in that parable, but what are some of those things that happen and why is it so detrimental to us?
Well, it's so detrimental because you cloud your judgment. And that's the number one thing. If you cloud your judgment, you can't think straight. And if you can't think straight, you do dumb shit.
Yeah. Or you get paralyzed and don't do anything. I mean,
or that's that is what happens to me. I see other people, I'm like, dude, what the hell are you doing? I just freeze. But I freeze in an anxiety attack way. And it's just, oh my God, I can't think straight. And really what it does at the end of the day is you start creating this huge scenario in your mind that hasn't even happened.
Yeah.
You slip out of the present moment where you are starting to see beyond what's in front of you, but you aren't. You're just like
you're creating
imagining.
A fake,
yeah.
Well, and that splits your mind. That's the
100%. That's exactly it.
As soon as you do that, you start trying to make decisions in the present based on a fake future you've made up.
That is so good.
Yeah, you just made it up in your head. It doesn't exist. Probably never going to exist because it doesn't go according to plan anyway. And so it splits your mind. And that's where you're saying you're so much less effective. You have less energy and you make worse decisions. You don't get where you want to be. And then you end up having anxiety and anger, which I'll talk about in my story here soon, confusion, and just all these negative emotions. And in the end, we talked in that opening section about this being about losing control and being afraid of losing control.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you resist surrendering to life, it amplifies the feeling of losing control.
Ooh, that's
just
so
makes
good.
It worse.
That is so good. And that's very true, because you're just like, holy cow. You realize like you're kicking and screaming up against this river, and you realize it's bigger than you, man. You ain't going to beat it.
No.
The only way is to go with the flow, to surrender to the flow.
And so I know you've kind of been going through some like surrendering and resistance things in the last 4 months as we started traveling. But I know one time you've mentioned like it feels like the rug's been pulled out from under your feet.
It really does. It's just, and the only reason I'm saying that's a statement from an egoic point of view.
Oh yeah.
Because when you do surrender, it doesn't feel that way. It only feels that way to your ego, because you're saying, hey, we're going to do it this way. And your ego doesn't like it. It's like, no, we were going to walk that river or by that river, not swim in it and go with the flow. We are walking, and it hates it. It thinks like it's out of control. Things are going wild, and your peace becomes disturbed,
Well, and on peace becoming disturbed, it really makes you like have this crazy uncertainty.
Oh, 100%.
You just feel like you're lost and don't know what to do next. But again, that stems from the fact that your ego wants you to make up this story about how exactly what you're going to do next will accomplish some, again, fake reality in the future. So that's where I think that rug out from under your feet feeling comes from.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You just feel like you've fallen, the rug got pulled, you fell, and you're just like disoriented. You don't know what to do.
And even the actions that you're taking when you don't surrender, they don't even seem certain. You're no longer even like, you think, am I even doing the right thing by kicking and screaming, by not surrendering? Even when you're trying to control the situation, you don't even know if those are the right moves. You're just all around fucked. You really are. You're just confused, you're dazed, and you're just like, what do I do next? It's at the end of the day, it boils down to being extremely reactive.
When you have an example where this ties with like physical resistance as well, right?
Oh gosh, yeah. So about a month ago, I was doing some yoga, and I was just like really getting into like exercising. And anyway, so I'm sitting in front of the TV, and I'm doing some very light yoga, by the way.
It was so basic.
It was such a basic move that I'm just like, and I think that's why it made me more, it amplified everything, because I was like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, I wasn't even doing anything.
Yeah,
intense.
I'm only 38. My gosh, what is going on? Anyways, long story short, so I ended up pulling my neck muscle really bad, to the point where I could not move an inch left, right, up, or down. And it was just so bad. And a couple of days went by, and I was just like, okay, this is going to get better. I'm going to ramp up on the, cold, whatever, compression, all this stuff, right? I'm going to do neck exercises, whatever it took. And then it wasn't healing. It was actually getting worse and worse. And then finally it got so bad that Aaron had to take me to the ER. That's how bad it was. When I just
x-rays.
X-rays. I had to get medication. And by the way, I had already gone to the pharmacy. They had already given me some stuff. Anyways, and it was just, I panicked. I panicked because I didn't want to surrender to the idea. And this is so stupid, right? Like, thinking about this now, I didn't want to surrender to this story I had made up in my mind that, oh shit, what if I'm crippled for the rest of my life? What if I can never move my neck? Oh shit, I love dancing. What if I can't do that anymore? Mm-hmm. What if Aaron has to wipe my ass? I swear to God, I thought about that. No, it's funny, but it's real. I panicked and I had this made up story. My ego was like, hey, you need to control this because otherwise this is what's going to happen. And I panicked.
When you, like we talked about, there's the whole past and future. So you're talking about like future, but then you are also dwelling on the image in your head of who you used to be and how healthy you used to be. And that's a big thing people go through. All of us is we always remember what it was like when we were 20 and we just instantly healed from anything. So as you start being more aware of your body and aches and pains, like you said, it scares you and you can get caught up in that, but it's only not being rooted in the now, right?
Exactly. So to wrap this story up, the biggest point was like I was suffering through it. You know, I was not surrendering to my new body. This is me. I have to take it slow. I'm getting older. Yeah, 38 is not that old, but it's older than 21, you know?
It's a big difference.
It is a big difference. And it's just like, I was really not wanting to surrender to the idea that, hey, this is the new me and I have to love this person. And anyways, we ended up at the ER. And when we came back, the doctor was like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
And that was a big moment for me. It was like a big epiphany.
Like a little inflammation or something.
And I was like, little inflammation? Like, I thought I was going to die. And I was crying like I was going to die. And it just made me realize, man, this whole thing of not surrendering, I lived it in my head really bad. And that's really what happens. So what about you? I know you have a little story as well.
Yeah, so Dalila's story was more just her dealing with herself. Mine, unfortunately, like involved me taking it out on her and showing how this...
Welcome to marriage.
How this not surrendering, this resistance just creates problems. So this one time we were in Penang, Malaysia, which is a pretty cool place called Georgetown.
I love that place.
But they have these amazing malls you would just never expect to be there. And Dalila and I kind of have this thing where I definitely get more recharged, like being indoors and working on our stuff or whatever. And
attention, all introverts. This is for
exactly.
you.
But we kind of have this thing where every few days at least, we make sure we get out and about, get around people. And because Dalila needs that to recharge her. And I, like this day we woke up, we had planned it. And Dalila was like, she was super excited. And we get to the mall and she's walking with me and she's really excited and like pointing out these different stores that she wants to go to. And I can just see that gleam in her eye, you know, that she
I'm at the mall.
It's the same if we go out and about. But the problem, like right from the get-go, I just couldn't, like even as she would point those out and try to take us in stores, like I felt this really bad sense of like resistance. I just didn't want to be there and I didn't want to be going into the stores and looking at stuff. And every time you would pull me toward the stores, I would just like tense up, like with that resistance inside. Like it would just add up a little more and a little more. And it just started like eating away. And I realized that the problem was I didn't want to spend my energy on anything other than myself.
Wow.
That was the problem. And it's been a problem and I had this realization later, but I just didn't want to be there. And I felt pissed off. Like anytime people would like interact with me or something, it was like they were sucking
the life
energy out of me. Yeah. And that's the way I viewed it in my head. And finally, it was only like a handful of stores in, I just like snapped that resistance. And my anger just like blew up. I was super frustrated and we got in this big argument. And by the end, it only took 5 minutes. Dalila was in tears and I was just feeling guilty because I knew I had just ruined the whole day. And I tried my best to like salvage it, but the damage was really done. And once we got back home and we had talked about it like in depth, and I just knew that something was seriously wrong. Like this was a new level of like resistance, and that it wasn't normal, and it's not natural and healthy to feel that way. So I really started introspecting and meditating on it and just really like thinking through this. And we talked through it more than once. And I realized that my whole life, and it culminated just to that like 3 months ago, was I was afraid, like we said, fear. I was afraid of surrendering to life. And I was afraid of spending my energy on people. And honestly believing that people were worth my energy. I would leave the house thinking like I needed to just maintain my energy. Yeah.
And I think because you were thinking of the future, right? Like, how are you going to feel when you come back to the house? You're going to feel drained. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah. And so I was so focused on trying to control everything. I wanted to theoretically get out and about, but I wanted it to be where it was just like enough to satisfy you, but not like force me to spend any energy or, look at people as worthy of that energy. And so I really closed myself off from the idea of like caring for other people. And man, that was the biggest realization for me. And it really is where this whole like the power of surrendering comes from or connects with me, because now after that realization, I make a truly conscious effort of letting go of that need of controlling. So like when we're going to go out and about now, I've actually got to this point where I feel recharged, and I've just had this realization that I need to surrender to people and just enjoy it and embrace that energy, because there's something really cool that happens actually when I'm exchanging some of my energy and people are like giving off energy, and you're just like happy and you're loving them and viewing them in that like positive light. And I realized in the end that by learning to embrace that or surrender to that feeling and the world and the energy and people, that it really allowed me to open myself up to other people. And it just made me so much more happy and fulfilled. It's been amazing, like transformative thing for me.
Yeah, I love that story because I've seen how much you've grown, and I've seen that like when we do go out now, I can almost see you recharged in a weird way.
Don't take it that way. I'm just You're testing me now.
Oh my God, you broke me. I thought I would, you know me too well.
Man, you were about to try to switch it to 4 days out and 1 day in a way. No, I know what you mean though. It allowed me to not actually think. It's just like the river parable, right?
I was just going to say that. Yep.
Now I get to the other side with more energy.
In a different way that you wanted to, but more.
Because the other way I would have to go out anyway, and I would get back just like him trying to cross the river. But the whole time I had been fighting the current, and then I would be dead, tired.
Exactly.
But now I just go with it.
You're energized.
And I get home and I have more energy than I would have.
That's true. I like that. Yeah. But it is cool to see, because I see that you get inspired. You're like, oh, I was talking to this one lady and she said this and that. I think we should do this next. And I like it. So 4 days out, 1 day in. Woo!
Okay.
All right.
So we've talked about what is surrendering, why inner resistance causes suffering, and gave those 2 stories. So now down to the meat of it, like what are some of those methods? Like how do people try to surrender or learn how to do this?
Okay. So this is something that I personally try all the time. And there's no real name to it, but I gave it a name, and it's just called the "if there's no tomorrow" method. I really like that because it gives you perspective. And what I mean by that is, if all this thing, like with my neck, right, that situation, if I had thought, you know what, if there's no tomorrow, it's just today is my last day, would I really be so overwhelmed by the future of this situation, this scenario that I'm creating, right?
Yeah.
And the answer is no.
No, you wouldn't even spend time on it.
Exactly. You'd be like, oh, it hurts. Fuck it. I'm still going
to do what I can to enjoy life. Yeah.
And that really gives you perspective. And so that helps me to be like, okay, calm down, take a deep breath. It's not the end of the world. So I really like that. What about you?
Mine. So again, with my story, obviously I'm a huge proponent of meditation. Since I just told the story, like I talked about that introspection and learning to evaluate what is going on. That's just critical. But something I found that actually just lets me surrender and let things go is I call it like a object technique, but it can just be mental. It doesn't really matter your method. But for me, it's like you can take some object, like it could be a crystal or salt, whatever. You hear all these methods, and it's funny because a lot of cultures have some things like this, like throwing salt over your shoulder or something. But yeah, really, it's sometimes when you realize you have this resistance to something, a situation, or the way things are going in life. Like I'll sit down. It doesn't have to be like a full meditation, but just close my eyes and I visualize that energy or that circumstance or whatever flowing into that object. So like the negative feelings or emotions and the attachment to it, all of that, you visualize it flowing like into your hand. And really try to like, you always want to try to have a really strong visualization, but get it in there and then you
just like all the like turmoil and everything that's happening in your head.
All the stuff that's being caused by that resistance, right?
Like the anger.
Even your attachment to that outcome. And then you just throw that object away from your body. So it can be just like dropping it or just toss it away. But that mentally, it really does help you detach. It helps you detach from that situation. I know
that's really good.
It's hard sometimes to underestimate the power of the mind, but there are all kinds of techniques like this.
Yeah, it gives you space. I think that's how I view this. Here's this crystal or whatever object it is, right? And here are all your thoughts. And now you're putting it here and you're tossing it and it's making you understand like, hey, you are not all these thoughts, this whole situation, all this negativity. You're different. You're a separate awareness. Your awareness, this is your problem and you're not that.
And this was huge for me back when I was still in my corporate career. When I would come home and I started using this method because I had found about it from some book I had read, and it truly allowed me to get home, spend only 5 minutes doing this.
I remember.
Yeah. And I could come out without my anxiety affecting you and affecting my energy with you. Like I was literally able to refocus and let stuff go just by doing this. So don't underestimate the power of it.
Yeah. I remember you talking to me about using the pen, like it's the same strategy, but I would use a pencil and paper and I would imagine that I was writing like all the lead was the negativity and it was being written on this paper. It was like being left on this paper. And then I would crumple up the paper and throw it away in the garbage can. And it would help me so much. And if you're in a situation where you can feel your anxiety and you're not wanting to surrender, a really good way to do it, let's say you're in the office, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, this person is just bugging the crap out of me or this
Take
situation.
Their picture and burn it. No,
oh my gosh. That would be
you said
awesome.
Crumple up the paper.
No, I was going to say you can use any method as you're like, let's say you're on, like I said, in a meeting and you can feel yourself boiling up, right? With anger or whatever. Imagine yourself like you're typing, and as you're typing those keywords, it's releasing into the computer or whatever. You can honestly use whatever method.
Yeah, I just want to be clear that it's not just letting go of the emotion, because we definitely have like a letting go episode, which is really good, goes into that. But your point is, and our point is, you're visualizing the circumstance that is causing those emotions and your resistance to it, right? And that helps you then surrender. So if in your example with anger, it's whatever, like whether it's that person or something, it's visualizing that and your resistance to it and just flowing it out of your body, right?
And like we said before, what these visualization techniques really do is they give you the ability to create space between you and those emotions.
Which lets you be calm.
Exactly.
Have that inner peace.
And that is the number one thing that allows you to surrender. When you can be patient and when you can be calm, you can be clear-headed and you can understand the situation. You can have a better grasp of what to do next, right?
Yep.
Because we don't want to be reactive. Reactive is what everybody else does to live life. And they live life pretty miserably because
for sure,
we don't learn these things. And it's
and we underestimate the power of the mind.
Exactly.
We've become a society of, like I said, everything's fixed by a pill. So they don't, even though we acknowledge the placebo effect, people don't understand that you can use that power for yourself, right?
Yeah,
for your own benefit.
It's all in you, right? It's just peeling back those onion layers and being like, oh shit, I have the power to do this, to give me my own peace. I don't need all this. I mean, of course, If you're under the guidance of a doctor, obviously listen
we're
to that. We're trying to give you some really easy steps that you can take and do to help and surrender.
So quickly, we're not going to go through these in detail because we've already talked about our main methods, but some quick visualization techniques that we've talked about. Dalila talked about writing on paper and then throwing it away. Some people, we've heard you can burn that piece of paper if you prefer to do that. Just washing your hands. We've heard about that.
Oh, yeah. Like, you used to do that too.
Yeah, like as you're, it combines with like a shower. So same concept, but either way, as you're running water like over your body or your hands, again, you visualize that it's washing away
that's
that
so
stuff,
good. I love that
resistance.
One too.
Yeah.
That's
that you're just letting go.
Showering after we get in a huge argument. I gotta go wash your negative energies on me.
I'm the white positive energy we're talking about next. So one is just to visualize in that meditation that you're inhaling white positive energy with your breath in. And then when you exhale, that like black or red or dark energy or emotion is exhaling out of you. So
yeah, that one really works out when you're in a situation where you can't be too open about it, right? Like maybe you're in a meeting.
Yeah. Keeping me there. Yeah. I mean, breathing techniques in general are so powerful, honestly. And in the end, it's just about being patient and waiting and using these techniques and not getting wrapped up and caught in the reactive moment. That's where the patience comes in, that space and inner peace and calmness. So on this point, we're talking about surrendering and being
going
at peace and calmness and going with the flow. And there's this really powerful parable that that Dalila and we read a while back. It was in an Eckhart Tolle book, actually. Yeah. So it's a great parable and great books, by the way, if you haven't read them. But it's about a Zen master. And this Zen master, he's in this village and he's very renowned. Everybody knows of the Zen master. And one day he gets accused of being the father of this child. So this young girl accuses him of having been the father of a child that she has, because obviously she wasn't married and her parents were caught off guard that she was pregnant. And so she had this baby and the parents were like furious. She tells them that the Zen master was a father. And so,
oh man,
I know,
a Zen master.
And so the parents come and they're obviously furious and they're just like yelling at him, everything, saying he's going to have to take care of the child. And, he's just like an atrocity, right? And the whole time they're yelling at him and getting angry and making these accusations, his only response is that so? And there's no emotion involved. He just says, is that so? And so the parents, they leave the child with him and he just moves on lovingly caring for that child. And about a year later, the young girl, she realizes that she wants her baby, first of all. And so she finally admits to her parents that it was really this boy working at a butcher shop. I was afraid
you were going to say that.
Yeah. And that he was really the father. And so the parents, you can imagine, they were just like shocked and they felt so bad. Like, oh my gosh, we like screwed the Zen master over, because his reputation had been like ruined and tarnished. Like, like
everybody goes to him for morality principles.
And so obviously word had spread and all that. And
so he lost like his entire livelihood.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so he's just taking care of this child. And once they hear the truth, the parents come back and they're profusely like apologizing and they feel really bad. And they're like, but we're going to have to take the baby back. Right.
Yeah.
And all the Zen master will respond again is that so?
Gosh, so good.
So when it comes time to let the baby go, he lets the baby go. And the point of this, some people get wrapped up in, what would you do in that situation?
I would call the parents and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That's not the point.
Or I would have denied it and stuff. But the key point is that he allowed the present moment to be as it is, right? So when the parents came and they dropped the baby off, he was non-reactive. Like he didn't participate in the human drama that was unfolding in front of him.
Oh my gosh,
right?
I love that you just said that.
Yeah, and he just said, is that so? And he knew that, in all honesty, it would be like fighting the river. He wasn't going to win that battle, because how could you prove it in those times, right? Yeah. You can argue all you want.
The mom is saying you're the dad. Exactly. Of course you're going to deny it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because you weren't married.
That is such a messed up story, but also such a good story. I love it.
Yeah, and by living in that present moment, yes, he had those accusations and his reputation was temporarily tarnished. But he also got to have probably an amazing year of love raising this beautiful child, right? And taking care of it, and knowing that, accepting that's the best good he could do at that time in his life, right?
Yeah.
Just embracing the present. And then a big key is, in the end, even though he probably developed an attachment to that child, he lets go as soon as it's necessary to let go. So he didn't form unnecessary attachment that also would have been causing resistance and suffering, right? So it's a really powerful parable.
It's a really good parable because it really shows the craziness of life. It's so unexpected. Life will give you unexpected things. And it kind of reminds me of this thing. We also follow this yogi. His name is Sadhguru. If you guys don't follow him, I totally recommend it. But he says, like, a lot of the times in our lives, we make assumptions or we make conclusions about the way we want our lives to be.
Say, oh, I don't do that.
I don't do that. Or I'm going to be a graphic designer. I'm going to be a VP of finance. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to this, And in this case, the story of the Zen master, he didn't make any conclusions about his life. I am going to be a Zen master for the rest of my life. That's it. And there's no budging. He was just kind of like that duck meditation, right? Like just going with the flow.
The wave,
like
up and down.
Today's conclusion is not a Zen master. Today, we're just going to go with what life is going to give me. And I'm not going to give up. I'm going to give in to the idea that I had made up in my mind. Today, I'm just a dad for this child. I just love that story so much. It's so profound.
It's so powerful. We actually we made some rings and on the inside. You can't see it here, and maybe it
so it says, is that
so?
Yeah.
And it's because this became a mantra for our lives, is when things don't go according to plan. I won't say right or wrong, but when they don't go according to plan, it was just such a profound learning to just, like you said, accept it and just say, oh, is that so?
Yeah.
And then you just move on with calmness and clarity to whatever is in your control after that point, right?
Because like in my case with the neck, it doesn't mean I just sit there and bear the pain. It means I do what I can.
Exactly. You PT it.
Exactly. With a calm heart and mind.
But you don't do worthless things like, oh, why do I have pain? Well, I mean, what is that? What is that
because
you?
this whole topic that we're talking about is, and what I learned through that neck injury is that suffering is a choice. But you might have pain, but you choose to suffer in your mind. You choose to be crying about it. You choose to making all these noise so Aaron can hear, like and huffing and puffing, it's just like you choose that.
So what we're talking about today is how surrendering really allows you to slip out of that egoic mind, and it helps you focus specifically on just the things you can control, those things that are just in the present moment, and that really allows you to have that sense of inner peace and clarity in your life.
Yeah, so some of those steps that you can take when the situation arises, when you start noticing that this is getting out of control, take the time to let the situation be without judgment. Don't say this is really good or this is really bad, just no judgment, create that space. And then step away from it for a little bit.
Important.
If you can step away from it for a couple days, do it. If not, a couple minutes. The whole point of this is to not be reactive.
Yeah.
And then if you can't step away because you're literally
like your neck, right?
Exactly, like you can't move an inch about it or of it, then put mental distance, like meditate. Maybe you can't sit up. It's okay. Meditate laying down. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Just allow that patience to come in. Allow the calm to come in, right? And then obviously I already said it, but meditation is one of the biggest ways to create space. It really does. We use meditation for everything, right?
It's so huge on just separating yourself from your physical body and your physical circumstances.
Yeah,
right?
From understanding that you are not your emotions. You are not this body. You are bigger than that. You're this whole perfect awareness, right? Yeah. In the end, it just slows you down.
It's about being slow, to
slows you
reaction.
down to not being reactive.
Yep. And so when you do this, when you perform these steps, be aware, don't judge, step away, create that distance, and you just learn to surrender, it will allow you to free yourself from that, like, all forms of mental suffering. And
I love it.
yeah, and you'll be able to stay connected with that like calm center, that sense of peace inside of you. And it just always comes back to the present moment, right?
100%.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, you by staying present, you in essence will free yourself from all the drama and those anything you're resisting and that's causing suffering. So it's just so important to go through this process and develop that healthy process for you. We gave our techniques. You can do a combination of meditation or some kind of visualization technique or both, whatever works for you. Don't disregard the power of putting these things into practice because it really can be life-changing.
Yeah, the power of surrender, really. So we're going to end the episode with one of our favorite authors, and his name is Eckhart Tolle. And he says, non-resistance doesn't necessarily mean doing nothing. All it means is that any doing becomes non-reactive.
God, again, so powerful. I mean, we're not going to go all the way back through it because we talked about it a lot in the episode, but man, that's why, like, he's the person that first gave us this realization, and so powerful, sums it up so well in this couple sentences is like, it's not about doing nothing. I want to emphasize that because that's not a good interpretation of this practice, but man, just the non-reactivity and that peace it gives you in your life, it's amazing. Okay, that wraps things up for today. Thank you everyone so much for spending your time with us. We really hope our experience and our thoughts have helped you in your own journey to overcome the not so positive things in life and come closer to finding true happiness. We would love to have your support by sharing this with a friend, so please make sure to do that. We really value your feedback also, so please make sure to visit our website at createnewpatterns.com. Make sure to sign up for our newsletter.
Yay.
And follow us on Instagram at createnewpatterns.evolve. And remember to please hit that subscribe button below. And as always, keep pushing to create those positive patterns in your life. Until next time.
Bye.